Take these off again. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Kate here pondering. I've actually been trying for a bit today to do a video for this, and every time I've tried, either Mike has been here wanting to get on the video with me, or situate here, or the camera battery died, and then this time I'll just use the computer to do this. Want to talk about loss and how that affects us, especially if we have a loss at a young age. And with this homesteading life, we do have those losses quite often, whether it's with our animals, stuff that we have going on in the garden, um, family members, pets. There are losses that happen in our lives as we're growing. This came up today in particular because this morning when Micah was still sleeping, the sun had just barely come up, but the chickens I'd already opened up the chickens and they were out and about, and then the dogs started barking. I heard a ruckus out back. I went out and something had gotten one of our favorite hens. Now, this was a hen that was older. I had thought last year about possibly butchering her, but I chose not to because she was really good with young chicks when we have them. Because we have a couple of hens that will get broody and hatch out the chicks, but then once the chicks are a couple of weeks old, the mamas don't want to have much to do with them anymore. And this was one of those hens that would take on the young chicks once the mamas didn't have anything to do. So she was a good aunt. And so I didn't do anything with her. She was big and fluffy. She was a Jubilee Orpington, beautiful bird. And so she was one of our favorites. And so we just kept her on. Well, when I got out there, she was freshly killed. So I went ahead, dressed her out. And as I was processing the chicken and getting it ready to cook, Micah woke up. She came over, saw what I was doing, and asked me which chicken it was. Because she knew, something had happened to one of them. We've talked about butchering and things of that nature before. I just haven't done any of it with her yet. She's 5, and with it just being me, I really haven't wanted to approach that and try to do butchering while keeping an eye on her, keeping her out of mischief. Then she asked me which chicken it was. I told her to look at the feathers that I had in the bag, because I'd saved most of the feathers from this hen. Just because, number one, she's a beautiful hen. Number two, they were extremely soft feathers, so we may do something with them. So as I was talking to her, and she dropped her head because it was one of her favorites. And we talked about it a minute. She was really sad, but she didn't cry. And then it all phased over into more of a biology lesson as far as the chicken parts and things of that nature. Having grown up on a farm, this is not something unfamiliar to me. We grew up, one of my early memories, I was about her age, and we'd gone to the neighbor's house for hog butchering. Now, all of us smaller kids didn't participate so much in the actual butchering. We would have been in the way, but we were running around and not up close to where the work was going on, but we were playing while it was going on. So things like that have been nothing new to me. Foxes, possums, raccoons getting in the chicken pen, just different things that happen with livestock. And then on top of that, when you have issues with the garden, Like last week when it was warm, I planted out the transplants, several of the transplants I had in the house. And because it wasn't supposed to get really cold, it was supposed to be kind of rainy Wednesday and Thursday. And the low was supposed to drop down to near freezing, but it wasn't supposed to be bad, and it was supposed to be up in the 50s and 60s during the day. Well, no, Thursday night it snowed. It didn't stick very long down here. They still have snow up in the mountains. Beautiful to look at from down here in the valley. But some of the seedlings I had put out seem to be doing okay. Not all of them are. These are the kinds of losses that we suffer all the time. How does that help us to deal with other losses we go through in life? Many of you know, if you've been watching the videos that I have up at this point, I have 6.5 years ago, I lost a daughter, and that is the hardest thing I've ever been. And I've been through a lot of really hard stuff in my life, but that is the hardest thing that I've been through by far. Having Micah is what saved me from totally losing it, being totally lost. She has been my gift to keep me here and keep me moving and to help me heal and be available for to help others as they're going through losses and just the rough things in life. God's not done with me. He gave me her to help me get through things so that I can continue doing work for him. But having learned at a very young age about losses, there are some losses that, I'm not going to go into here in this video, but I did know 3 of my great grandparents, and I remember when each of them passed away. Actually, one of my great grandmothers lived with my grandma, and uh, we were there all the time because we were on the family farm. And so we were around her a lot up until the point where she broke her hip, and then her health degenerated from there because this was in the 70s. Care for elderly with broken hips wasn't at the same point in the 70s that it is today. My great grandfather that I knew was one of the most special people I've ever known. And when we were around him, all I ever wanted to do was make him happy, make him smile. He was a wonderful man. So his loss, and I was in my teens when he passed, his loss uh, was difficult. Then 20, a little more than 20 years ago, we lost my grandfather, my papa. I was his first grandchild and born on his birthday. And he and I had a very special relationship. But there were a lot of things I was going through in my life that he was unaware of because we were protecting the entire family from the wrath that he would have had if he'd known about things going on. We didn't want him to react badly uh, in my defense. So he just was never told. when he passed away in 1998, that was an extremely hard thing for me. Then a few years ago, my mama passed away as well. And I'm still dealing with a whole lot of stuff as far as that's concerned. But what I wanted to talk about on this is how we deal with all of these losses with our young children, knowing now at this point what we know, with the endeavor with each generation for us to do better than the previous generation did with us. Um, I want Micah to have a much healthier way of dealing with loss than I've had. When I lost Maxine 6.5 years ago, emotionally, I pretty much shut down. I had everybody else to think about. I had to make sure that everybody else was doing okay, make sure things were getting done. Doing her obituary was left to me while I was grieving, while I was trying to handle things. There was just so much, and I had to be strong and get it done for my baby girl. I was not able to process my feelings, my emotions. And I just shut them down. I went back to work after 2 weeks because staying at home would have driven me crazy with all of the circular thinking and all the what ifs and everything else. And going back to work was a way for me to avoid processing the emotions and the thoughts. And rather than getting into some sort of counseling. Um, so now, at the point I am now, I've reached out periodically, found a few people who are also on this path. I have had, uh, I've got a few online groups because that's easier for me. It's not face to face. It's not somebody I know personally. I can talk with them about the different things, chat with them online about it. Missy, hush. Um, but then occasionally, with me working in a medical office, occasionally I have someone come to me and to tell me that a patient needs to speak with me because they have just recently joined this most horrible of clubs that there is. They're now on the same path I'm on, and there's nobody else in the office who understands this like I do. They just don't know the emotions, the feelings, and so I have to take a deep breath and go sit down with someone who is new to this path and give them the freedom and the ability, the open space, just the space to either say nothing or to let out every thought and every feeling, whatever it is. And then I go and I type up whatever I need to type up for their job, for whatever environment they're in, wherever they're at, for them to be able to have that space in their life to be able to deal with this loss, because people who are not on this path don't know. they don't understand. And that's a good way for people to lose their jobs. It's when they have, careers, bosses, family members who don't understand. It's a good way that so many families fall apart from this loss. Um, so many people expect us to just get over it. And that's why I'm wondering, as I titled this, does this lifestyle help us to learn how to deal with loss? I'm not sure. Anybody with any thoughts on that who reads this, please make a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I think in some ways it helps us to be able to move on, keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep getting through the day-to-day. On the other hand, depending on how much loss that we've had to deal with, it could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And most of us are probably somewhere in between. But that's what we deal with on a daily basis. And for any of you who are on this path as a grieving parent, or those of you who have sadly lost a spouse, you're new to having lost any other family member, please feel free to contact me or just go to my videos, but reach out to somebody in your community if you're feeling at a loss. If you feel the need to have somebody, reach out. Do not let the grief overwhelm you, because we can get through the days. We can honor those that we've lost by continuing in life and being there for other people, being there when others join this path that we're on, and helping them to know that they can get through this. Y'all have a blessed evening and keep pondering.